Welcome back to V-World. Today is Wednesday, where we are going to do our Works of Art Wednesday and review a Pokemon card set, just specifically some of the artworks. There's so many cards out there, so many different, illustration rares, special illustration rares, alt arts, and gold cards, and rainbow rares, and all sorts of things. We can't dive in that deep. There's just too much to go over. But what I like to do is kind of review one set at a time and kind of take a look at some of the artwork there. Usually we aim for the higher value stuff because those happen to be the better artworks. And today, we're doing Prismatic Evolutions because I never did. I just never did. So obviously you can see it here on screen. Prismatic Evolutions, we got the entire set. I'm not going to go over EXs or even the uncommon and common cards, although there are certain cards among sets that do stand out. They really do. And going back in time, some older sets, if you want to check the playlist, you have to dig a little bit because it's been a while since I've done one of these. Some of the artworks really do stand out. Actually, I like this Snorlax. Like things like that do stand out, and they look good and they're fun. But we know where the big hits are at, and that's where the big artworks are at, and that's where the big price tag is at, and all the wonderful things in between. So we are going to look at the higher rated cards out of the Prismatic Evolutions set. Pokemon still trying to keep up with this one. In fact, yesterday they did the text sticker collections that went live. Apparently, never saw them. Never saw them. I heard they went live. I saw on different posts from X to Instagram and all the things in between that they went live. However, you wait in the lobby for an hour or more like I did, all to get nothing. So it's the way it is. If you were able to get it, let me know. I'd love to hear a success story from time to time because it's so difficult out there. It really is. And Prismatic Evolutions is one of those sets that really is going to hold its value long term. If you're looking for something like the Pokemon Center version of the Elite Trainer box, it's kind of at the best point it could be price-wise, and I don't think we're going to see a restock on it anytime soon, or probably ever again from that last one. So, might be thinking about that. Although that's brought the price down on it a little bit. Maybe they can continue getting the product out there and push and push and push and get some of these prices down. Anywhere closer to MSRP would be nice to start, and then if we could beat that someday, I feel like I'm dreaming, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, we're looking at the artworks, and it's really not about the value of the card. In fact, I don't want to dive into the different evolutions because it's such low-hanging fruit. It's so easy to pick them out and kind of look at some things there. I'm going to look at a few others, starting with Lacey here. I am not a fan of this style for these trainers that came out with Prismatic Evolutions or Terrestrial Festival, if you're familiar with the Japanese side of it. Didn't like them that much. It felt like, wow, not a high-end artwork, not a high-end chase type card to be listed as a special illustration rare when comparing to the Evolutions and a few others for that matter. It just didn't seem like it was that good. But when I start looking at it for the sake of artwork and not thinking about it, where does this stack up price-wise, or hey, you could pull this just as easily or as difficult, if you'd like to frame it that way, as you could the Umbreon EX. The reality is, yes, they are equivalent in their ability to pull them. However, they are not equivalent in what you're getting out of it. And it's just night and day difference. But you can look at the artwork and appreciate it for what it is and not focus so heavily on the price and worry too much about what it is that you're getting there. If you're going secondary market, you're in a much better shape for sure to be going that route instead of trying pulling these cards. The fact that we have the image here and then she's stepping out of that frame into this other space. It's nondescript space. It's just a frame within the card. This pink, open, flat, opaque space. It's not really part of the scene. It's just stepping out of the scene. We have overlap of this box here, the paper flying out of her head, peeking past. That little technique just gives the image that much more dimension. We've seen this before. A more recent one would be from Celebrations, where we have that professor's research arm reaching out. This is a little bit more exaggerated, trying to emphasize that difference of coming out of the frame. I wish they would have done a little drop shadow right here. It could have been pretty severe given how harsh this light is. A hard light, meaning a very hard line shadow happening right there. And they could have easily added a little bit of shadowing there as part of the print to elevate it that much more. Another thing, we have these, it's a cartoon classic to have these hard lined edges, and then we lose it on the top of the thumb. It's kind of weird, but that is how it is printed. So interesting for sure. But that's kind of the vibe I get here, going for that reaching out of the frame, stepping out of the frame look, which just kind of makes it interesting. It's something to be noting there. The Goldango here, EX, probably one of the best artworks for this Pokemon that I've seen. you can argue maybe it's not. That's fine. I'm up for a debate. I don't care. However, I love the obvious choice: gold. Let's talk in simple paint terms: yellow, and blue. Whereas some would argue that's cyan, but I'm not going to get into this, ridiculous semantics of color theory with you. I've taken course after course on color theory, so I don't want to dive too deep into that. However, yellow and blue are complements. They are not in paint, but in light they are complements. In paint, it's actually orange and blue. So you have a really close comparison here of having a nice complement color for us, the viewer, to see in what we would otherwise depict as an image of this Pokemon in the scene. And the framing, the action, the movement here. This Pokemon lends itself well to a lot of movement because it's a very goofy little Pokemon here. It looks like he's going to, he's doing some sort of like snowboarding or something. I don't know, skateboarding. All the gold coins flying everywhere. He looks like he's about to do a breakdance move. I don't know what's going on with this Pokemon. Don't know much about him, actually. But just hanging out in the city, got that urban vibe. Everything's hustle, bustle, and go. It makes for a fun, lively artwork for a special illustration rare. And you can bet that if I ever pulled any one of these out of Prismatic Evolutions, I would be talking myself into why it's so amazing that that's the card I pulled rather than getting one of the evolutions. But you got to take every little bit you can. Compare this to the Paradox Rift special illustration rare of Goldango here. And looks like this price has actually been going up lately. Geez. Sorry, just a small note. Doesn't matter at all for this one. But I thought this one was pretty cool. I loved the fact that it's not a gold card, but a gold Pokemon on a gold background. And you have the gold and black look, like we've seen with some of those gold cards, that Pikachu, the Mew, all those. But it's not a gold card, so it kind of gives you a nice look and everything. This one over here from Prismatic Evolutions, Pokemon really upped their game on this one. This one really looks cool. Moving on to Sandy Shocks EX. Now, probably one of the lower end ones, maybe above the Ogerpon masks and all that. But I really like the fact that with this particular set, there's a lot of visual texture. We have a lot of different, look at these like leaves, and I don't know if there's rock in here, maybe, yes. Is this supposed to be sand behind it, or are those just flat depictions of like vines and leaves there? And what are these more leaves, but it kind of looks like it could be a spark? We have this like log coming off of here that he's either gripping onto or something. I don't know what's going on there. A lot of different visual textures for Sandy Shocked, or it's really a Magneton, right? But the ancient version. I'm not a big fan of that, but I'll digress. It's not part of this. So it's interesting to see the different visual textures, everything very muted, this brown. It's kind of fun. Makes for something a little bit different. And that's kind of the overlap that I saw into any of the evolutions, which I don't want to dive in deep to, but it was really about the texture, the visual texture. Yes, those cards are actually textured, and that does add something to them. They hit very differently than what you see on screen, but just the repeating pattern, the symmetrical background here, this back and forth of light and dark all throughout the Umbreon here. The Glaceon, very simple. It's just a clean background texture here, more of like a stained glass or some sort of panes happening here with a little bit of a floral design. Well, this line work here, I don't know. You have a nice visual texture, but it's really about the Pokemon sitting on this background. Some are a little bit more discreet, I guess, with this just muted purple. Nice highlight from above coming in. You have the flowers here for Espeon. So very, very simple design to complex design, and all in the same feel. I, for one, prefer a little bit more scenery, a little bit more action, a little bit more going on, where the Pokemon has this feeling of reality. And that's what it was when I was a child, just kind of dreaming that they could be a pet that you could have along. You could have your very own Pikachu chasing you around and going on adventures with you. Whereas these are all about this visual texture, and then it just kind of disconnects after that. So for me, Prismatic Evolutions being so heavy on the special illustration rares, no illustration rares, but having special illustration rares and a lot of them, I felt like it was rushed, and they could have done so much more with some of these Pokemon. Where that's why I'm kind of gravitating here, that it's worth a look to see that there's a little bit more thought, there's a little bit more scenery, there's a little more depth and framing and background, and giving a little bit of credit to the fact of just this artistry here of stepping out of the frame, giving us something different that, is now, it's not an old set by any means, but a little bit older in the scheme of things, and kind of having a visual interesting tie back to something like that. That wasn't a game-changing card, but it was a surprise to see it for the first time, and it kind of, oh wow, that's interesting, something different. And that's what I like to see from Pokemon, when they continually push the envelope, take it to another level, and just boom, a little something different, a little something different. And here, it's fine, it is different. I'm ready to move on. And we have a little bit with Journey Together. We are going to see that a little bit with Destined Rivals. However, I still feel like we're not quite back to that alt art look where it was like a really thought out scenery. And I think that was headed the right direction, that we could take that even further rather than this approach on things. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. I post 7 days a week. Be part of the channel. We are working our way towards that 6,000 subscriber mark, and I'm going to be doing a handful of giveaways along the way here, a little bit more as we go, I think, and maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. I've run out of time today, so I'll call it off for today. Like the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, I do post 7 days a week, and with that, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.